inspire all across the globe to take a stand when they witness an injustice, no matter how small or large. He is a motivational speaker, trilingual poet, TV talk show host, rapper, and professional of cross-cultural communication at American University. His Urban Music Award-winning work has been described as outstanding, exciting, and new, while being very old. His book, From the Limbs of My Poetry, was described by Essence magazine as a remarkable and insightful collection of exquisite poetry that touches sacred places within your spirit. He was one of 5 international recipients out of 750,000 to win the first ever CNN I Report Spirit Award. He has also received over 1 million views on CNN.com. So we're really lucky to have Omekongo today. Welcome everyone, and on that note, I'm going to welcome Omekongo to the stage.
Physical levels. We still got black wars against the police. We still got crack wars in the streets. Unemployment at its peak. Overcrowded prison cells and present-day hells. Of a weather-created state, Israel. Wars over Western with Saddam. American politicians arguing over the difference between smart and dirty bombs instead of smart children in dirty schools. I'm feeling like it's me against the world, and I'm starting to get ill without even thinking of Kim Jong. Though North Korea does have the world spinning up on its axis right now. With these signs of the time in mind, I wake up every day with one burning question, and it takes me no less than 24 agonizing hours to answer. Am I going to die today? I said, am I going to die today? You see, I don't even bother watching my back anymore because I might get killed from the side today. Or maybe they'll finally get me in nuclear with bombs dropping from the sky today. Or maybe some religious fanatic is going to blow my behind up in a train station after deciding he wants to get closer to paradise today. Hell, I got to wonder if some insane and depressed pilot whose wife just left him is going to fly today. Right into the 13th story of my building where I just called my wife to tell her I got a rise and pay. Or am I going to get hit on some driving while black or driving on I-95 today? Or maybe some crooked cops going to decide that some no good niggas' moms got to cry today? All this while wondering if our leaders are going to play chess with our lives today? Why today? Instead of getting caught up in all that today, I think I'm just going to lose myself in the movement, the moment, I own it, because it might be time to go. It only takes one shot for cops to release my soul, because our community's stalked by filthy 5-0 soul. So I decided that I'm going to fight today, because there's always just enough time left to be right today. I got kids looking for me to take a stand against wars in Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan today. And so I got to fight for this world to be safe for we. And you see, this is personal because I don't want my children to see my face next to the definition of complacency. And so I'm going to fight this insane system with all of my might today. Because it's true that tomorrow never dies. But I might today. In a world, our visionaries are becoming so hopeless that they're losing their sight today. And so many perverted priests and pedophiles out there that I got to worry about whether my sons and daughters are going to stay tight today. While leaders give the rich tax cuts and the poor axe cuts and educational spending, my students, they're expecting for me to do what's right today. Looking down at the end of the tunnel, I woke up seeing the light today. Because get this, nations may blow up entire other nations out of spite today. And though I got my cell phone on, I may not have enough time to call my mom to say goodbye today. Y'all might say that I'm paranoid today, but inhaling historical truths has got me high today. And so now I'm looking for heroines and heroes to help us stop our plight today. I'm even wondering if all this secondhand smoke finally gave me cancer today. So I'll dial 911 for emergency assistance, but Bin Laden answered today. You see, I just walk around thinking that something's going to get me, and I wonder why you never ponder if you're coming with me. So you have to forgive me for recounting some of the signs of the time that we live in. Because as ignorance is bliss, I know some of y'all forgot the hell we done been in. Got me wondering if God is really going to be forgiven for all of our sinning, like killing each other in the name of religion. All I know is that I'm going to keep on fighting and never give in. So if I die before I lay my head to sleep today, I just pray to God my soul to keep today. Thank you. Please repeat after me. There can only be one me.
There can only be one me.
Say it like you mean it. There can only be one me.
There can only be one me.
There was no me before me.
There was no me before me.
There will be no me after me.
There will be no me after me.
And since I'm the only me,
And since I'm
that the
the
world will see,
that the world will see.
I will be the best me
I will be the best me
that I can be.
that I can be.
All right, give yourselves a round of applause. That's it. I do that everywhere I go because I just want to hear my audience rap real quick. Just, sure. How y'all doing? All right, I'm very thankful. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, all the organizations that put this event together. Very happy to be up here. We've been talking about this for a while, and we've been able to make this happen. And I shared that affirmation. I wanted you all to share in that affirmation for two reasons. Number one, as a motivational speaker, one of the first things that I learned is that you are going to remember the things that you say to yourself more than what you hear other people say. And the second part was, now that you said that, I want you to understand that what's going on in this world, if we're serious about making a change on any level, it's going to take our best selves. It's going to take our best efforts, our best energies, our best intentions in order to really push for the change we want to see in this world. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk primarily about issues relating to conflict minerals, and but generally speaking, we're really talking about social justice. And one of the things that you have to understand as you sit here at Champlain is that, and I think having read about what your organizations do, you probably know this better than the average person, student or adult, is that no particular situation lives in isolation. That everything affects everything. One of the things that we talk about when I do a lot of my anti-bullying work is that people say, oh, well, yeah, they made a racist or sexist comment, and yeah, I didn't say anything, but we talk about how silence is compliance, and how every inaction is also an action. And so when we talk about this thing we call conflict minerals, I think it's very important to understand that it's connected to wider issues which affect what you're doing right here. Every single day, what your president is doing on this campus, what student leadership is doing, what people in the community are doing, it's extremely important. One of the things that we have to also understand as we continue in our work as activists is that there's nothing new under the sun, right? And we may have new, phones, iPhones, and Blackberries. They don't have Blackberries anymore. You can do that. Like, you're when MySpace is like a thing. Shoot. Hey, okay. All right. Like, things change. Like, y'all remember MySpace? Is that like before you were born? Like, I don't know. Like, yeah, I still got one. Like, I saw it on there. So I'm keeping it real. I'm just saying. But, new things come up all the time. New technologies, new weapons. But look, the fact of the matter is that activism, making a change in the world, the principles are pretty much the same. One of the challenges that I have when I start off with that poem, which is entitled Signs of the Times, one of my CDs is entitled Signs of the Time, is that when many people hear that poem, I don't want to say commend, but they highlight the fact that it speaks to many challenges that we face today. The problem is that I wrote that poem over 15 years ago. And so the question becomes, what has changed? What has not changed, and why? Because maybe, with the exception of a couple of names, most of the issues I said, North Korea, police misconduct, war, sexual abuse in our religious institutions and in our community overall, crumbling educational systems, still challenges in 2018. And so the question becomes, what can we do as an individual, as a society, to really help make a dent in this thing? So when we talk about conflict minerals, we're talking about tin, tantalum, tungsten, gold, but the conversations we're going to have right now, these are the same conversations that have been taking place for over 100 years. Now, before I get there, I need to do another. So, we're going to talk about Africa, right? The continent, right? Look, so as you know, I teach at American University, and I assume nothing. So it's very easy for me to run into students and other adults who still look at Africa as a country. So please don't take offense, y'all, because I know y'all already know, but some other people aren't. And so I just assume nothing. I've learned not to, I'm from, you can tell from my name, right, Omekongo. I was born in a very far away place, Boston, Massachusetts. That's where I was born. And I taught in Boston, K-12. Well, K to 8, then I went to Maryland, 10 to 12, 9 to 12. But I had children in Massachusetts in my classroom tell me literally that Massachusetts is the capital of Boston. No joke. So this is what I mean when I say I assume nothing. So try not to take offense, because y'all like, damn, yeah, I know that, dude. Come on, for real. Like, I'm a Champlain student, of course. Like, that's how we roll. But that's just how I roll, too, all right? So this first poem I'm going to share is a disclaimer piece that I do anytime before we start talking about anything related to Africa, anywhere I go. Is that all right? Can I share that? Good. Appreciate it. It's called Pulse of the Motherland. I wrote this for a TV network called Pulse TV. So let's get this disclaimer. They say that you can't judge a book by its cover, but it has become appallingly clear that you can judge an entire continent by its media coverage. You see, you can color an entire continent dark with the paint of poorly placed perception when you rely on the media to teach you your Africa lessons. Because I come from a continent that the world thinks is a country. And to put it bluntly, we're all HIV positive until proven negative in the eyes of the media. It's like Africa's like a one big safari or Kalahari with seething heathens and no sense of religion and home to animals and animism, because TV renditions of African afflictions have created a depiction of a land of savages where the world's most dreadful diseases exceeds the law of averages. As American TV only shows you the ravages of a select few nations, most Americans juxtapose the mother of civilization with phrases like damnation and starvation. And so until we take control of our own images, we can't expect to see a true representation of our beauty. Most non-Africans believe that the most Africa has contributed to the world are phrases like Hakuna Matata and Asante Sana Squash Banana, along with exotic vacations in remote locations, because I've never heard an American TV news station even say that we're made up of 55 nations. In the eyes of the media, we're just underdeveloped wannabe Caucasians, still searching for civilization if you buy the media's interpretation of who we are. But am I taking this too far? Because to me, the real problem be the WB, ABC, and NBC, which are the real WMD, weapons of mind destruction, because most people, including many Africans, only see what they see through the smart bombs they call TV. And it's not just a newscast. It starts at like age 3, because I grew up watching images of Bugs Bunny dressed in grass skirts and blackface, speaking in African dialects, and every 10 years, there's a new version of Tarzan on the TV set, and I don't know about y'all, but I recall seeing gorillas pass for Africans in some of these cartoons. And if you remove Marvin Marshall's helmet from Looney Tunes, he's probably an illegal African alien or famine-stricken African child of his belly protruding. And it's these convoluted images that have helped create grown-up policymakers who partially base their opinions of our homeland from films such as Congo, Gorillas in the Mist, and The Air Up There, and we can't forget Tears of the Sun, which left too many tears on the sons and daughters of Africa searching for a positive portrayal of who we are. But that won't happen until we as Africans take responsibility for our portrayal, because the betrayal of our friends from CBS, Fox, and CNN means that we will never see an end to these characterizations of the continent of human creation, which has been made to look like she's on her deathbed and ready for cremation. But we must show the world that our mother Africa is strong, vibrant, and defiant, because the pulse of nearly a billion people can never die once we take control of what the world sees. And so we can never comply with pictures painted by pessimists on TV of our homeland, because we, you and me, we are the pulse of Mother Africa. And we must now show the world how proudly we will stand. Thank you. So, it's also my pre-Black Panther poem. Because, quite honestly, we never really had anything, Wakanda style, portraying real positive images of Africa in that type of light, right? And so, to be quite honest, I share that poem because as we transition into talking about Congo, as we transition into talking about conflict minerals, some of us who are not that familiar with what's taking place there are quick to look at what we're talking about as taking place on the entire continent. And that's just simply not the case. As I said in the poem, most people may not know it, but we're talking about a 55-nation continent. A 55-nation continent where some countries have already had women presidents, okay? Where some countries have had democracies, lasting for large amounts of time, where for some of these countries, democracy is not a new experiment, as in the last 5 years or so. Some of these countries have had stock markets that have been outpacing the US in terms of growth, as well as some of the Asian markets over the past couple of years. So, right? So we're talking about a very dynamic place, which has a terrible history, particularly as it relates to the Congo. When I talked to you about my Signs of the Time poem, and said I wrote this poem over 15 years ago, the things that we're talking about now, I can literally change the words and I can have the same conversation over 100 years ago. One of the things I say in one of my rhymes about the Congo, which I call Welcome to the Congo, is that one of the reasons Congo is so poor is because it's so rich. All the minerals and the whole world, they want it. So what we're talking about right now is a second major conflict that we've been engaged in as it relates to our resources. Our first one was over rubber. In the early 1900s, they used to call it red rubber. And this is what I mean when I said in the beginning that everything is connected. Because in Congo, what they used to do is they used to cut off the hands of our kids for not producing enough rubber. Now the question would have to be asked, why would Congolese need to produce a whole bunch of rubber for their country? Well, no, it wasn't for their country. It was for international companies like Dunlop, Goodyear, Firestone. Because rubber and tires for the automobile and bicycles, it became a major industry. And so people searched for major deposits of it, and we happen to have the largest deposits of it. And people back then, like W.B. Du Bois, people like Mark Twain, without the access of the internet, people like George Washington Williams, who was an African-American pastor, they organized back then to change what was taking place there. After we lost over 10 million people, they changed what was happening there. And our question is, what can we do with our technology now to make a change in what's happening in the Congo, particularly since our technology is part of the problem? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a quick video just to kind of summarize some of the things that are taking place in the Congo. I know we may be at different levels of our knowledge about it, and then we're going to keep pushing from there.
What we do about these things. They are an essential part of our lives.
But did you know that our demand for cell phones is fueling the deadliest war in the world?
Millions of people have been killed in the Congo over the past decade.
Now, what does this have to do with our cell phones?
Conflict minerals. Conflict minerals. Congo's conflict minerals.
We call them the 3 T's. Tin, tantalum, and tungsten.
You're about to show a real handsome guy. These conflict minerals power our cell phones and other electronics.
Arms groups make money by trading in Congo's conflict minerals.
But guns aren't the only weapon in this war.
The rate of sexual violence against women in the Congo is the highest in the world.
So while we've paid a few cents less for our cell phones, Congo's women and children have paid the ultimate price.
It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it.
It's just not worth it.
We have the power to help stop the violence.
But only if we speak up. Let's raise our collective voice as consumers.
Let's demand that our electronics are conflict-free.
If we make enough noise, the top electronics companies will listen.
We can help bring peace to the Congo.
We can help bring peace.
That would be something we're talking about.
Imagine a place you never heard of, where children grow to soldiers, women raped and murdered. Men watch the children die. They ask why. Do they got to cry for so long? Tears gone, eyes dry. Now imagine that your cell phones cause us death and demise. Your PlayStation slayed a nation. Xbox X'd out lives. Your laptop, the backdrop for death so it can function. Your desktop, a weapon of mass destruction. You ain't got to imagine, dude, this all true. Your TV won't tell you because it's guilty too. Of violence in the Congo, they died so we can live, but you can change it all. And you ain't got to leave your crib, turn yourself into a microphone and speak up. Tell computer companies to back up. You can change 1 million lives and help stop the violence. If you could be brave enough and just end the silence. You know, one of the things Mark Twain said is that it's very important to make sure that your schooling doesn't get in the way of your education. To make sure that your schooling doesn't get in the way of your education. So one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is how could, between the years of mid-1990s and today, how could a country lose over 6 million of its people? How could it experience levels of sexual violence that are so inhumane that we can't even imagine? Of course, any level of sexual violence is inhumane, but when I talk about burning sticks of wood and sticking them up women's vaginas type of violence, when we're talking about gang rapes with machine gun type violence, how could these things take place? Schools like this are directly connected to these things because the materials end up in all of our resources, even the resources that we're using to broadcast these videos, to record what we're talking about now, and we don't know a damn thing about it. What are our tuition dollars doing for us? What have they given to us? You see, it's very easy for people to talk about that dark content, the term that people are still using today. It's very easy to talk about people still using developing nations and third world countries and all these types of things. But what type of first world place engages in something like that? Participates in something like that? Why literally with the purchase of a phone, with the purchase of an Xbox, with the purchase of to that conflict. So one of the questions we have to ask ourselves is, why aren't we asking the questions? When we have those Black Friday sales, and we have those 80-inch televisions that are on sale for $75 or $125, why isn't our educational system teaching us to ask the pertinent questions of where might this be coming from? Because when we talk about the materials that are in our products, the 3 T's as people call them, the tin, the tantalum, the tungsten, when people talk about coltan, you know, some of these places, some of these minerals, and we talk about copper and gold, they have deposits in places like Australia, and they're accessible in other places. But the main culprit, the main area source is the Congo, an area in which over 25 different rebel groups have operated at one point. I don't even know what the number is now. And you know what? We're not even talking about just gunslinging rebel groups. We're talking about people who are so sophisticated that they have offices and lobbyists on K Street in D.C. That they have offices in places like Belgium, in places like Paris. Like they are, that's how intricate that they are. But as long as we're getting that new phone at a discount, we'll line up and sleep overnight and not really care and not really get engaged. And so this is what I mean when I said in the beginning that it's all interconnected. And one of the questions we have to ask ourselves when we talk about interconnectivity is not only just the minerals. When we talk about issues relating to sexual violence, to rape, and these serious issues, which we also know is a problem across college campuses. We should be able to look at, including this campus. We, in this room today, we have to put ourselves in situations where we humanize international conflict. Where we humanize, people are talking about, the Me Too campaign and this and that, but look, come on, let's be real. As much as I'm a supporter of what's happening with the Me Too movement, and many of y'all may be or not, can we be honest with the fact that this movement didn't start to pick up steam until famous white celebrities started to come forward? And then people started crediting people like Alyssa Milano with starting it. And hey, I'm an Alyssa Milano fan, grew up on Who's the Boss and all that other type of stuff. So of everything that she does, but, it started with Tarana Burke, right? So when we start, this is what we mean when we talk about intersectionality. And one of the questions you have to ask yourself is, at what point do I start giving a damn about an issue? When it only happens to me? When it only happens to people that I know? Picking up and making a purchase, I can be directly involved in that. At what point do you stand up? At what point do you join this university's efforts as it relates to making this campus be conflict-free? Because we know that there has been resistance there. And we know that your tuition dollars are leading what's happening on this campus. When do we speak up? When do we speak up? Do Congolese women deserve a Me Too moment? In the way that people are being ravaged and savaged there? What about people who start fighting for issues like child labor? Well, yeah, we can start fighting for child labor in places like China, where people are making our clothes and our phones in conditions that are horrible. But what about the children in Congo who are mining the resources that are in the products that we got right now in our headphones? Who's going to speak up for that? I love the quote Martin, because it's like every quotation he has is relevant to what we're talking about today. He starts saying, one of the things he says is the two most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you realize why you were born. Some of us are still on that quest to find why. Well, this could be your moment. Because the fact of the matter is, there's been a lot of work done towards ending this. I shared my poem, I showed the video, and I know that some of these things can be depressing, but when many of us first started this movement, I was saying like the early 2000s, many of us didn't even know each other. We were just, I was over here, people like JP was over here, JD Steer over here, different organizations doing different things. No one was really unified. Now, through organizations like Race Hope for Congo, Enough Project, Ubuntu Initiatives, so many organizations, we have over 200 campuses right now that have gotten their administrations to pledge to go conflict-free. And some of these schools are middle schools. And so if they can do that, what can we do here? Well, one of the things that people will say, well, we don't have the numbers here. Look around, there's only, however many people here. But come on, I'm talking to a room of activists. I'm not talking to a room of act as if nothing's wrong. I know exactly who I'm talking to in this room. And I don't know you by name, but I know that you're passionate about something. And so we know that when we're passionate about making change, we don't need to have every seat filled. Because we know that change is always started by small groups of people. By small groups of people. A hashtag can't go viral without being retweeted one time. It starts small. And so the question we have to ask you today is, what do you need to do to help push this conflict-free movement? And one of the things you have to realize is that everybody can do something. And let me explain what that means. For example, maybe you're not really connected, or you don't feel really tied to the issue relating to the mineral side of things of what we're talking about. But maybe you're connected more to the side of the sexual violence. There's work to be done there. I can't think of a single organization on this campus that's not related to what's happening in Congo in some way, shape, or form. Because any economics club that you got, Congo. Anything relating to women's rights, Congo. Anything on this country that deals with, and this campus that deals with children and education, Congo. Anything that deals with consumer rights and conflict management, Congo. So what I'm saying is that there are areas where you can plug in to help make a difference. We need an all hands on deck type of mentality. So when I said people need to, be the best me that we can be, this is what I mean by that. And so the question becomes, what are you doing? Because even as we stand right now, our own government is working to destroy all of the gains that we've already made. When we talk about some of the legislation that's been passed, Dodd-Frank, and some of the pressure that's been put on companies to document where conflict minerals are coming from, this administration that we have now, working to reverse that. Aren't really caring about what's taking place. And have an economics-focused agenda more so than a human rights-focused agenda. There's pressure we can put on that. You may not relate to the sexual violence piece. You may not relate to the conflict minerals piece, but you might relate to the political piece. Okay, then who's calling the senators? Who's calling the local congressman? Who's knocking down Bernie's door? Or the different states and local localities that you come from when you go home? This is what I mean when I say everybody can do something if we truly care. If we truly care. Because really, at the end of the day, nothing is going to change without what you're doing. We're having a conversation right now in this country about gun violence. Hello, Congo. You ever seen people get dumped over the river and shot on the way down and ask where those guns are coming from? That's part of our problem. And look what's happening right now with students who are from Parkland and other places right now, who are fighting to change gun laws, for example. Look how certain aspects of society are condemning them, are coming at them. Just saw Ted Nugent call them soulless something, or I don't even know, right? And when we see, Ann Coulter, attacking these kids. When I say, high school students. So we can expect that. People are going to fight back against you, but at the end of the day, y'all got to be fighting for something, because as Dr. King said, as we commemorate his assassination in 2 days, if you're not willing to stand for something, you'll fall for anything. And injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So at what point will we start, and so many of y'all in this room are so passionate about what's happening as it is to the environmental side. So we can have a conversation about what's happening to wildlife in the Congo at the expense of our materials. We can talk about what's happening to the forest, to the wilderness that's being destroyed. And this is what I mean. Every single group can be connected to Congo in some way, shape, or form if we want to be. This next video I'm going to show you, I think is really important, because one of the challenges that we have when we're talking about this is so many of us feel like we're just alone. We're just ourselves. And I really want you to see that you can really be part of an international movement of people who've been speaking up. But it all starts local. So one of the challenges that we have in talking about the Congo sometimes is that everything is always doom and gloom. And so this next video, we pulled a couple of celebrity friends together, and we put this together to celebrate some of the greatness that's going on. And we would absolutely love to learn more about what you're doing here and be a part of this as well. This is called Congo on the Come Up.
We have the power to make a change and demand that our electronic companies and jewelers use conflict-free minerals.
And we can say to those tech companies and those people, we want to live in a world where our electronics do not fund rape and war.
Madison, Wisconsin, let me hear you give it up for Omekongo!
You're not going to watch the whole thing.
Provide the backdrop for war, the poor, caught up in the struggle. People around the world live a life in a bubble. Ignorance is bliss and our enemies know that. They know we think the Congo was savage and wax, and we made a new story. Switch up the flow, had a all of the money coming out of Congo. The jewelry in school, we're part of the problem. The jewelry of Jews came from village and Robin, Robin, Shabiki, students and others. And come and tell you Congo will be more asunder. There's a power up inside of me. Ain't gonna take a breath till the people see. We the ones that make the world conflict free. It was the key to our humanity. There's a fire up inside of me. Ain't gonna take a breath till the people see. We the ones that make the world conflict free. It was the key to our humanity. A movement has sprung up, Congo's on the come up. Voices ain't just from the west, listen up. It's easy to think the Congolese ain't fighting for peace in the east, for a future brightened. From Fidel, Rocky number 2 of Mani Montalbano. Then you see what you love to Vietnam, illegal. Congolese are fighting every day to be free. Fighting for the kids that have a new destiny. Raising hope for clean supply chains. What it brings shouldn't come for people slain. A free country, making progress. That's almost 200 schools changing the campus. Walking reform bill, changing the time. Cause now we got the government on our side. But there's so much more to do. We still need you to show the world that Congolese are humans too.
There's a fire jump inside of me. Ain't no take a breath till the people see. We the ones that make the world conflict free. Congo is the key to our humanity. There's a fire jump inside of me. Ain't no take a breath till the people see. We the ones that make the world conflict free. Congo is the key to our humanity.
So right now, you can call the politicians or Apple or Dell. They gotta listen. You're part of a movement and that was the time. We all gotta go to play and save the lives. You don't wanna get out and march, it's all good. Tweet out a message from your neighborhood. Demand that your campus be conflict free. Pick a local rule up, care for humanity. Most important day is the day you were born. The next day is when you see why you were born. This might be your time to shine, you never know. Just get out and do something now for Congo. Working with the Congolese will end this crisis. Elevate your mind, and maybe you might just get involved in the fight for survival. Congo needs you to have a real revival.
There's a fire jump inside of me. Hey.
One of the reasons I wanted to show that video, there's three main reasons. The first one is because so much of what we read about and what we've been talking about can be so negative that sometimes we fail to celebrate a lot of the positive things that were going on. So one of the things I wanted to do was celebrate international student activism who are engaged in this. The second thing I wanted to show was that no matter how small your organization is, once you start speaking up, you can start to attract the attention of other people. People like the Emmanuel Sharikis from Entourage, Aaron Rodgers, who didn't know anything about what was taking place in the Congo. But again, once he started to realize there was a connection there, wanted to speak up. But this philosophy is that everybody can do something. And the third reason I wanted to share that video with you all and wanted to do that video is because many of us developed the mentality of, well, we can't do everything for them in the Congo or anywhere in the world that we're talking about an issue. And it's a very paternalistic, backwards mentality to have, because the fact of the matter is, as we show from the video, even as I'm speaking right now, I believe it's Imani, one of the Congolese who are in that video is on my campus right now doing a workshop. People think that Congolese are not fighting also for this change. And that is 100% false. And there are people on the ground who you can be working with and have direct contact to see what's going on. Because one of the things that I say in many of my talks on Africa is that you can't get educated by the media, the US media, because the United States media can only handle one African conflict per decade. So if you grew up around where in the 80s, it was Ethiopia, and then in the 90s, it was Rwanda, and then in the early 2000s, it was Sudan. And now in this decade, like, we're all fighting to get that 3 minutes on CNN for a particular issue, right? So you can't go by our mainstream media to learn what's happening. You have to use that social media to develop your on-the-ground contacts. This is something that's extremely important, to see that you're joining a movement. You're not creating, like I said, there's nothing new under the sun. You're not creating something new, you're joining something new. But there are lots of ways you can contribute. So on this campus, one of the things I want to ask you to start thinking about is, how can we connect this more? How can we deepen this more? How can we raise awareness more? There's so many positive things that you've already done. There are other things you can do, simple activities like have a sellout. And a sellout is simply, CEL out, where you turn off your phones for however, 6 hours, 5 hours, whatever, and you leave a message on your voicemail or auto-respond of some sort that says, I'm turning off my phone to raise awareness about what's taking place, and to learn more, go to said website, raisehopeforcongo.org, or a different website. You can create fundraisers. One of the things that I encourage all of you to do is start contributing your art to these movements. This is my art. This is how I share my message. Yeah, I have a PhD and all the academic stuff, but I prefer to communicate these messages in 3-minute poems and raps, than 3-hour talks with PowerPoints. That's just not what works for me. So are you a dancer? You know, are you an artist? Are you a painter? Are you somebody who can create another way to reach people? I do hip hop because I know that hip hop reaches a different audience that gets ignored by people. I do spoken word because I know it reaches people. So one of the things, one woman started a Run for Congo campaign because she loved to marathon and she loved to do that. And so everybody can contribute in some way, shape, or form. What did I say in there? You don't want to get out and march, it's all good. Tweet out a message from your neighborhood. A tweet can have more responses, more impact than a march. And so the question I want you to ask if you walk out of here today, what am I going to do to help change the situation that I'm benefiting from directly every single day? And look, we can talk, this whole presentation that we could have talked about clothes, right? We could have talked about conflict, chocolate, right? We could have talked about everything that we're wearing possibly is coming from some form of conflict. You could be literally wearing genocide. Literally. And I believe that if we have the opportunity to help make a change towards something, we should work actively towards that. And I have one more piece that I want to share. But before I do that, I wanted to know if there are any questions or comments or pushback or feedback about anything that we've been talking about so far. Yes?
My question is, how can we as, consumers of technology kind of in this country, how can we be, better consumers? Should we, are there some companies that do produce cell phones and laptops that have received some feedback from, the activist groups that are making better products, and are there some companies we should avoid? I try to get refurbished things, used things, because I know that buying new from the company is hurtful. So any kind of advice for us being in this world and being so connected to technology, how we can be better not supporting what's going on?
That's a great question. How can we be more involved in basically becoming more responsible consumers, right? There's two more pieces I wanted to share, and I'll get to those. But yeah, there's absolutely, or like I said, organizations like Race Hope for Congo, organizations like Stand With Congo, organizations like the Enough Project, they have been doing the work of creating a grading system. This is Enough Project's website. If you see here, they've actually ranked the companies. And this is what I mean when I say that there's already a strong movement out that you can become a part of. So, the companies that are at the bottom do the worst as it relates to conflict minerals and their work. And you see, it's just not electronics companies. That's Neiman Marcus down there. So it's going from Neiman Marcus, Walmart, Sears, Helzberg, Costco, going all the way up to Apple. Who's doing the best, from worst to best. And so, this scale, they updated, you can see they did it, I think first in 2015, but now it's been updated again. And so you can start looking at things like this and start saying, I want to start becoming a more responsible consumer, because before Steve Jobs died, Apple was lower on the list. Because they didn't know what was going on, and we literally, when I say we, I mean y'all, students. We literally rolled up to them and said, this is what's going on. Do you know about this? Jobs wasn't that really aware, and the campaign started to grow. Intel didn't know anything about what was going on. And once they started to get wind of it, Intel said they wanted to start making all of their computer chips, their processors conflict-free. And they've actively gone on a mission to do that and to support the local communities. So one of the challenges when we first started was, everybody was pretty much at the zero. Or, very poor grading. And so it was like, well, we have this philosophy in this country. We have this kind of apathy on things. No one's ever going to stop gun violence. No one's ever going to stop being racist. No one's ever going to stop sexually harassing people. It's going to be here forever. But then, how did we all get into this room, right? I mean, if you go back in particular times, depending on your gender or your religion, some of y'all, maybe, I don't know about this college, but at most colleges, you couldn't be in there. I couldn't be here, if you're a woman, you couldn't be in some of these colleges, if you're Jewish or, whatever, or you came from a certain class background. But people in this country fought to make those changes. But see, the way society works, continually inundating us with 24-hour news cycles, we see the same, CNN, constant negative news, right? Like, you see the same things, death, weather, and traffic, over and over and over again, and they call it breaking news, and they show it all day, and the stories are mostly negative. You start to think, like Malcolm X said, you never did anything, you think you can never do anything. So that becomes part of the problem. We kind of just settle and be like, no one's gonna, and it's very frustrating, particularly when I hear it from university, college students, because most change throughout the world has started from people your age and younger. That's a fact. That's a fact. Because so many adults, of course, have been active and engaged. But some, because of whether job security or fear for what could happen to their kids, for a lot, are in many instances are not the people at the forefront. But the way the society is working now, they got many of you all, not in this room, but in general, they got you dumbed down. So places like this are good resources because when we started, we didn't have this. But now through the work, we have things like that. And for any Black Panther fans, I just want to let you know that Wakanda technically is in northeastern Congo. Put that out there. Yeah. So does that answer your question? So yeah, and in Europe, they have a fair phone, which is a conflict-free phone. And we've been putting pressure on some of these companies to do it. But just like with the fair trade movement for different foods, things start to, when people see that it will be profitable, they will do it. Joe Madison says, if you hit people in their pocketbooks, their hearts and minds will follow. Right? So we start to show people that it's sexy and that the demand will be there, they'll start to do it. But now, if they think we can just continue to be like sheep, they're like, why even bother? People are gonna, that's what somebody said in one of my classes somewhere I was speaking. They said, people are gonna buy the new iPhone anyway. I just don't accept that. I just don't. Anyone else? I told you I'm a classroom teacher, I'm good with wait time. Yes?
Can you better explain this chart?
Yes. So what they're doing here is when they're talking about the conflict, so first of all, you see at the top, you see the two squares there. So one is organizations, the light gray one is the one that focuses primarily on consumer product, electronics. So that's why you see, the Apple, the HP, the Microsoft, the Intel, right? What you see with the other one is, because another issue that we're dealing with, beyond, in addition to the things in our electronics products, is also physical jewelry, like rings and earrings and necklaces and all of that. So that's why you have the companies like the JCPenney's and the Helzbergs and the Neiman Marcus is there because they sell those things as well. So when we talk about the numbers in terms of the ranking, at the top here, the furthest you can go up to, I believe, was at 320. I can't see it. It's kind of blurred out. I think it's 135. So in terms of that, they're looking at the progress that they've made over the years. Now, right here in my head, I don't have the actual number breakdown in terms of what getting to 20 means or 30 means, but they do break it all down there on the report. But that's what the graph means.
Okay. So the closer you are to 135, the less you use these conflict.
Yes, the better you're doing at having conflict-free products. Yeah. And so, look, and guys, I wish I could say that, I'm completely at the top, and all, but, some of these places, I've shopped in some, I don't think I've ever been to Helzberg, but, or even Marcus, or Tiffany. But on every other place that's on here, I support it in some way, shape, or form. So you're not talking to some type of saint, who's got it all figured out, and, I just live a conflict-free life, and like my cell phone's made out of rocks, or something crazy like that, right? Not conflict-free rocks, right? I'm not that dude, I'm getting better at it, but this is one of the challenges we have to realize. It's like, it's like some of y'all have gone from, being carnivores to vegetarians, right? It's like, it's a process, right? If you ate it all, it didn't matter, because you asked the question of if animals weren't meant to be eaten, they wouldn't be made out of meat, right? So you just ate everything, right? So maybe you were like pork, chicken, turkey, but it's progression. Maybe you gave up pork first, and then you moved to turkey, and then you moved to whatever. It's a progression. And it's the same with this. It's like automobile safety, right? It's a progression. Seatbelts, airbags, all this other type of stuff. We can do the same with this work. We can do the same here. Anybody else? Yes.
So like, if the Congo is the biggest, like the biggest producer, how can a company like effectively go conflict-free?
Well, one of the one of the things that can be done is one of the challenges that we've had. We didn't talk about this really significantly enough. Is the Congolese government itself? We have elections coming up in December. And one of the challenges has been that the Congolese government has been involved in selling some of the rights to these mines to some either companies or larger mining companies without a real care for human rights conditions. And they've changed some of that with our activism, but we still have more work to do. And so like with Intel, like the leadership at Intel actually went to visit some of these places and started to actively work company to ground with changing some of the conditions there. Because the people in Congo, it's not like they don't want, they don't want to stop selling this stuff. They just want to make money off of it too. They want to have the equal, fair wages and insurance and, not have to be working and sweltering while they're visiting death, right? That's what they want. So that's how some of these things have changed by some of these companies committing to changing what they're doing on the ground and also letting the government there know that they need to make some changes as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, so like, sorry, is it a...
No, go ahead.
So like, they're not necessarily not using the materials anymore, but they're working to make it...
They're working to make sure, basically to clean up the supply chain.
Okay.
They're the ones that are higher up on the scale are working and maybe even finding other countries that can supply stuff. Like I said, Australia has some of these deposits, right? And so this is what I mean, like working to slowly clear up the pipeline.
Yeah.
And some are doing better than others. Yes?
So I noticed that most of the companies that are further down on the list are companies that don't necessarily corner the market for affluent customers.
Mm-hmm.
So is one of the main struggles of the movement that getting these Congo minerals from the Congo is so much cheaper for production that they keep their margin?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of the main challenges with the companies that are not more on the high end. They have more stores, bigger stores, and so getting things on the cheap is what's most important to them.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So.
And then one of the challenges when we started to approach some of these companies, particularly these ones that sell the gold and stuff, and then we literally, what they told us when we said, hey, this is what's going on, are you going to start checking your supply chain? You know what they said to us? Literally, they said, make us. And some of these companies literally told us, unless you can get a large contingent of students, young people who are our best customers, to force us to do this, we have no incentive to change.
Yeah.
That's what we were literally told. So, in doing this work, we, targeting Apple, that's sexy. Like anyone go after Apple and Intel and all of that, but, the local joints, the Targets, the Costco's and all of that, we need to do work there. We need more work done there as well. Absolutely. All of these questions and comments are great and powerful. Anybody else? So I have two more pieces that I want to share. I'll share one. I'll do a check for any more questions or comments, and I'll end with the last one. So this next one comes from an album I was a part of called Raise Hope for Congo. Myself, Mos Def, Cheryl Crow, Damien Rice, Nora Jones, if I didn't say her already, Michelle Degocello is what I meant to say after him. A lot of us just donated different tracks to this album called Raise Hope for Congo. So I had the lead track on it because it was the same name of the album. So I'm going to share that. The world's richest country, now the poorest. A chorus of women's cries across a corrupted country in demise. International lies hide the truth of our turmoil, raping our country of our women, tungsten, coltan, and gold. Young girls now a commodity. It's no longer an oddity. Child soldiers watching bullets and not birds fly over their skies, so that we can sit pretty with our PlayStations, laptops, and iPhones. I roam alone across Africa's First World War, starving a country, but feeding the globe. Little babies dying so we can have a cell phone and warm home. An Xbox, a TV, a computer, a flat screen, flatlining the dreams of millions of Congolese, never quite able to control their destiny. Mineral gifts turn to curses. Body bags with no hearses. Babies bouncing from the womb to the tomb in a matter of minutes. But in a minute, you can decide to help turn this tide. Raise your voice for the people. Raise hope for the Congo. Turn your cell phone into a microphone and speak knowledge to your college. Tell these computer companies we need conflict-free products. Realize that you're a fool if you don't check the trail of those jewels. You see, diamonds and gold be the fuel to this fire. How can gold become a cancer? I'm searching for an answer. In a land where diamonds are not a girl's best friend. But together, working with the Congolese, we can change this direction. If we all decide to raise our conscience and each one teach one, reach one in our grasp and make an army of change, an army of conscious consumers, and not soldiers for the same old sympathetic solution to political and profitable prostitution. The true resolution is empowering our women. The center of our land must be made whole once again. The backbone of our nation must be realigned. When our women can stand proudly, our country will once again have its spine. The pride of our future lies in our young boys. The heart of our future lies in our young girls. Congo's future is in all of our hands if we just understand that we're all in this together. So let's all raise hope and take a stand for our land. Thank you. Now, one of the things I mentioned in that poem, I can't really remember the line, about another resource that has also become known in Congo is oil, which also leads to other types of conflicts. And, before I share this last poem, which is simply called Leadership, one of the things I want y'all to understand that being an activist, being engaged in a movement, it's challenging. It can be frustrating. Whatever challenge, we talked about what we talked about today. You might be passionate about other issues and topics. But one of the things I want you to understand is I literally wrote a book for upstander activists, people like you all who are so caught up in your movement that you forget how to take care of yourself, like sleeping, eating right, exercising, breathing. Gotta get that yoga in. My wife and I have 3 yoga studios in DC, so we're really passionate about that type. But when I said we need you at your best in the beginning of this session today, we literally need you at your best. Our enemies win if you're constantly stressing yourself out, if you're constantly putting yourself in situations where you're not getting sleep. Look, guys, this university stuff, let me tell you a little truth about the big lie. I've done I think maybe 4 TEDx talks, and one of them I encourage you to watch. We're just moving into something completely different before I go into this last piece. I encourage you to watch a TEDx talk that I did called The Accidental Ambassador. You just type in my first name, Omekongo, and The Accidental Ambassador. This is not a plug for me in any way, shape, or form. I just feel like in that talk, I give some advice that could be useful to you as a college student. And I just want you to check that out for yourself. One of the things that if I don't talk about it in there is, you guys at the end of the day, you don't carry your report cards with you for the rest of your life. You carry your mental health, your wellness, your stability. I see students in many of these universities I speak at where over 90% of the students have reported dealing with some level of stress. And at the end of the day, this is not the end-all be-all. If you focus on fashioning a life that makes sense to you, as opposed to what the world says needs to make sense for you, you're just going to live an entirely different type of life on your own terms. And really, at the end of the day, you can't let these institutions stress you out. Because again, I asked, what's the purpose of paying all this tuition and stressing out? You don't even know a genocide's taking place under your watch. And you were part of it. So when I talk about getting rest, when I talk about sleeping, don't let these structures break you down. This society is meant to break you down. We're all born as originals, but most of us die as copies because we spend our time trying to be like other people. We spend our time, when I was younger, we used to keep up with the Joneses. The Joneses can't even keep up with themselves, right? And when I had you all say there can only be one me, there literally can only be one you. I can't be you, you can't be me. You have to be yourself because everybody else is literally taken. But society teaches you if you play ball, you gotta dunk like LeBron. If you sing, you gotta sing like Lady Gaga. If you do whatever, you gotta be like this person. Be the first you. Be the first you. Because at the end of the day, somebody once said, the difference between school and life is that in school, you get the lesson, and then you get the test. In life, you get the test, and then you get the lesson. Focus on life. And that makes everything you're doing on this campus as a student, it makes you able to breathe a little bit easier. This last poem is called Leadership. Before I do that, join me in one more affirmation. I know if I believe.
I know if I believe.
I can and will achieve.
I can and will achieve.
The past is the past.
The past is the past.
I will no longer regret it.
I will no longer regret it.
I will focus on this gift.
I will focus on this gift,
which I call the present.
which I call the present.
I will get out of my own way.
I will get out of my own way
And live my best life starting today.
and live my best life starting today.
If I focus on my dreams.
If I focus on my dreams
And not my sorrows.
and not my sorrows.
My trials today.
My trials today
Will be my testimony tomorrow.
will be my testimony tomorrow.
All right, this last piece is just called leadership. The chosen few are the few who chose to step up to open doors tightly closed. So you call yourself a leader, but what does that mean? Getting green, turning green, madly running your teams, sadly killing the dreams of a hopeful team, madly willing your ideas, not even listening. Does it mean you celebrate on election day because you can add your new position to your resume? Can you handle criticism when your peers diss you because you don't care about theirs but only your issue? Pass the tissue makes me sad how some leaders let power get to their head constituents. They forget you're just a leader in name if you're just searching for fame, for acclaim. It's a shame why some get in the game. Leadership ain't for the lame, don't take it in vain. Time to rethink your position, understand why you came. You see, a leader, someone who listens first and speaks. Someone focused on being the change we seek. A leader understands they represent all people. Don't do that, your leadership will never have a sequel. Do you seek to understand before being understood? Do you take time to visit other neighborhoods? We need real leaders to step up to the plate, to take a swing at racism, other types of hate, to stomp out bullying, help end genocide. Do your best to help others hold their heads with pride. A leader builds a team, can't do it all by yourself. And a leader remembers to practice good health. Because you're no good to others if you're no good to you. So let me ask you again, is leadership in you? Thank you.